Hello and welcome to another Game Analyzer, where we pop out facts for just 100 yen each. Here we go. Now whenever you're surfing for the greatest games of all time list, especially the ones that require voting, you'll see Zelda the Ocarina of Time, Mario, and Metal Gear. But sometimes you'll see this mysterious game either mixed within the list or above them all as the greatest game of all time. This is why Shenmue is picking up with newer gamers that were too young when Shenmue came out. Just a fun fact, Sega themselves actually oppose advertising and mentioning of the game, so it's kind of an anomaly that such a game would still have its ears constantly burning. But why does everyone like Shenmue? You walk around, you talk to people, you hold things, and, well, you don't have a gun. Well, they like it for the same reasons people like The Raven, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, and Opera. There are just so many ways to view the epic story, so much that I cannot do it in one episode. So for this episode, I'm going to be covering just the toy capsules. Originally, this was going to be the introduction to the Shenmue analysis, but there's just so much information on these toys that they need a full analysis on themselves. So let's get into it, and keep in mind I'm only going over the first Shenmue, because Shenmue 2 is an entirely different beast. Before we go into any toys individually, let's discover why the toy capsules are even in the game and why Ryo buys them. Think about what has happened to Ryo. In the beginning of the game, your father gets murdered right in front of you, and you find out that indeed your father has even killed someone himself. No one deserves to go through this traumatic experience, and on top of all of that, Ryo is only a 17-year-old boy. And to make things even more dramatic, the player eventually finds out that Ryo has also lost his mother. It's definitely one of the most tragic things to happen to a main character, and the fact that Shenmue is so realistic drives the point home even more. Now what does this have to do with the toy capsules? If you look around the neighborhood, you see kids gathered around the toy machines. This makes one assume that kids have always been buying toy capsules in Yokosuka, even when Ryo was a kid. Which, if you think about it, wasn't exactly long ago at this time. They're a success, and even found in harbor lounges, probably when women bring their kids to work. When Ryo was a kid, his mother and father were likely alive, so buying the toy capsules takes Ryo back to a time when he actually had a family. The clicking sound, the view, the "this is cool." He is obviously a kid again when this happens. This is the only time we see Ryo this happy. Also, keep in mind that Ryo's toy collection is empty as the game starts, meaning he picks up this hobby after his father has died. But that's not the only reason they're in the game. There's also an out-of-game reason. The toys also show how much faith Sega had put into Shenmue and the Dreamcast as well. I mean, even the buttons were toys. They also show Sega characterizing their failures and hopes in a unique, artistic way. And you know when you play Shenmue, you gotta catch them all. But doing so is nearly impossible, but with patience you can. Now most of the classic Virtua Fighter characters are toys and are all in one capsule machine, but who in the hell is Wooden Man? Well, he's never been in a Virtua Fighter game, I'll tell you that. A Wooden Man usually looks like this. You know, those things that you see Jackie Chan having fun with. But did you know that there are Wooden Men that actually look like this? Apparently these were the early models. I suppose they were pretty tough to train with, so they underwent a new design, being the one that we're all familiar with. I guess these ones probably had balance issues. Now Wooden Man can also refer to the art Wooden Man, which may make sense because artists used this model to sketch how the bodies move. But since this is a martial arts game, I'm going to go with the old Wooden Man design. The Shenmue Wiki says it's rare to see a model of Wooden Man like this in real life, which is funny because he's really rare to get in the game. Also, he is the only toy in the Virtua Fighter machine not to have a kid counterpart. Now let's talk about some of the Sonic characters. Now you have your classics, Sonic, Knuckles, Tails, Amy, and Eggman. Fans of Sonic will recognize Espio from the newer Sonic games like Sonic Colors. He first came out in Knuckles Chaotix on the 32X. Now, who are Bark and Bean? Well, they're from Sonic the Fighters, a very poor Sonic fighting game. I really have no idea how they made it into Shenmue. Bark and Bean also make another appearance in Fighters Mega Mix, and Bean is also in Virtual Strikers for some reason. As for Fang, he appeared in Sonic the Hedgehog Triple Trouble, and was the first person to ever point a gun at Sonic. Now we all know who Chao is, but who is Pian? Well, he has never been in a Sonic game, to my knowledge, and is actually the Chow equivalent to another Sega franchise called Knights. Don't you just hate these? When you're trying to collect in Shenmue, you'll likely keep getting these duds. The Bibsibin are from Space Harrier, and the heavy bombs are from Fantasy Zone. If you're collecting toy capsules, you'll have a lot of these. They also have the Tri-Z ship from Tri-Z, one I find pretty tough to find. But now let's play a little game. I'm going to put a toy capsule on the screen, and I want you to guess which game it's from. You can even pause the video if you want. Let's start with this one, Meow. Meow is actually the only toy in the game that represents the Phantasy Star series. He is the first party member you get. Now, how about Chicken Leg? Go! Chicken Leg is the only toy that represents Golden Axe. You first see him on the first stage where you can ride him. Though I will admit he looks very strange in Shenmue. How about this guy? Cobra Beach. Go! He is a boss from Fantasy Zone. Fantasy Zone is actually represented pretty well in Shenmue. Poppers and Ida 2 are also bosses in Fantasy Zone. Alright, one more. Hornet. Hornet is the only toy that represents the popular series Daytona USA. Now that was fun. Let's move on to the most rarest and creepiest toys ever made. Megadra Brother is a strange Genesis with arms and legs and has a 32X on it. This demonstrates probably how stressful the whole Genesis idea was and became. There is also Game Gear O, who is represented by a sad boy with a Game Gear head. I don't know why he's sad though. He did better than all the other competitors Nintendo faced and was a great system. Now, speaking of wrong emotions, we have Satoru, who represents the Sega Saturn. Now keep in mind, Shenmue was originally going to be on the Sega Saturn, so the reason the Sega Saturn seems so happy is probably because they made these toys before they jumped to Dreamcast. It could also mean that maybe they were planning to keep making Sega Saturn games even though the Dreamcast was out. Then, of course, we have everyone's favorite, Dreamcast Code. You know in Smash Brothers when you try to look up the girls' dresses and there's nothing there? Well, Sega does what Nintendo don't, strikes again. Look at that. I've always wanted to look up a Sega Dreamcast skirt. And no, you will not find this on the web, only on Game Analyzer. But obviously, she represents Sega's hopes with the Dreamcast, which sadly didn't have the success it wanted. Now these toy capsules are a bitch to get, and you'll be spending days in and days out trying to get them like I did. But you get your reward, pervert. But don't stare too long. Now, of course, I've saved the best for last, the two good old Mystery Hikawa figures. You can get them at the Abe store by putting all your savings in potato chips. Once you get both of them, which is harder than it sounds, you go to the sushi shop on the 9th of any month and you can see the man himself. Strange little Easter egg. I've heard you can chase him, but I've never had any luck catching him. Also, I heard that the Japanese version has a better outcome with this, so if you have that one, try it out. Now I'm gonna brag and tell you that in all my time playing Shenmue, I've gotten about every single toy capsule there is, the hardest one being the Mitsuka certificate. Getting all the hang-ons is pretty tricky too. Now this takes multiple times playing and it's pretty crazy. I've always liked collecting things in games. And in Shenmue, I kind of like it a lot better than in Pokemon because you don't have to have friends or go online to download some of them. Oh wait. Well, thanks for listening to another episode. If you want, you can check out my other analyses. I've done Mortal Kombat, Super Mario Bros., and Fatal Fury, and more. You can also check out the music videos and music I post on the channel as well. You know what? You might as well subscribe. You can also give me ideas on future game analyzers in the comments. A special shout out to David Pedula for giving me this toy capsule idea. It really helped me get started with the Shenmue analysis. This is Game Analyzer, signing off.